So Fox News and right-wing media are very desperately putting together a concerted effort to turn these wacky coronavirus protesters into what is essentially a new Tea Party. And as you may be aware, there have been these mass gatherings, protests in states where people are demanding everything be opened back up, regardless of safety, regardless of infection risk. And Fox News has been promoting them as if these are heroes who are doing this, rather than simply people who are creating a public health problem. Here's Judge Janine, a Fox News host, praising one protester on her show over the weekend.
Debbie Dingell, who is the who is your senator, didn't have nice things to say about you guys, and I was rather shocked. Here she is, a representative of your state, criticizing this peaceful protest, and it was peaceful, saying it was inexcusable. What are Michigan's reaction to her?
Well, I can tell you, look at Michigan, look across the nation. What we've done with Operation Gridlock and has ignited a fire that has spread across this entire nation. Arizona, Pennsylvania, Texas. I mean, today, New York, great example of gridlock, people rising up all across this nation.
All right. And, you know, a lot of people are very proud of you, Michonne, and what you've done. And let me just say, Debbie Dingell's a congresswoman and not a senator.
Of course, the issue isn't actually whether the protests are peaceful. It's whether the protests are putting people at health risk. And of course, they are. And as Caleb Akarma wrote in Vanity Fair this Monday, the network and its most important viewer, Donald Trump, are amplifying the voices of a small but vocal minority protesting state lockdown orders. They are turning these protesters, much like they did around the Tea Party, into a principled, constitutional, conservative movement. So remember that with the Tea Party, if you were following politics at the time of the Tea Party, you had a movement that knew very little in terms of facts, but that didn't stop them from loudly and indignantly and furiously, in many cases, asking for policies that would be bad for them personally, but they were policies that their side decided that they want. Lower taxes for the rich is one that comes to mind. You have a very similar situation here. People who lack facts, both about the virus and about economics and about just about everything, but they are advocating for reopening, which would be bad for them in the medium term because the case spikes will occur and more people will get sick and more people will die. And over the medium term, it will actually be worse for the economy, not better. And you have Fox News and right-wing media cheerleading them. Tucker Carlson hosted a protester as well and thanked them for their service in these protests. Rush Limbaugh cheered on the protesters by citing these examples of American bravery and sacrifice from the past that have nothing to do with what these protesters are doing. Donald Trump, of course, tweeted over the weekend, liberate Minnesota, liberate Michigan, liberate Virginia, and save your great Second Amendment. It is under siege. Trump advisor Stephen Moore, who has been a vector of disinformation lately, Stephen Moore called these protesters modern day Rosa Parks, which really makes no sense. And in fact, Washington Post columnist Max Boot, with whom I don't agree that often, says that it's not Rosa Parks that they should be likened to. It's really Typhoid Mary. That would be a more apt comparison. Typhoid Mary, Google Typhoid Mary if you're interested in this. Typhoid Mary was an Irish woman believed to have infected 51 people with typhoid fever, believed to be the first person in the United States identified as an asymptomatic carrier of typhoid fever. That seems like a more apt comparison than Rosa Parks to these protesters. And we have to work really hard to prevent right-wing media from turning these people into heroes or into martyrs or into whatever. They are the problem, not the solution. And as usual in Trump world, in Fox world, everything's backwards. Notice, by the way, these supposed small government constitutional conservatives, they're not protesting the multi-trillion-dollar bailout put together by Trump, which certainly doesn't sound like small government. Not a peep from them about it. There's nothing smart or patriotic about the protests, and yet you see them doing that and not protesting trillions of dollars in government spending. It's a spectacle, and it's a pathetic one at that, but it's dangerous no matter what. We finally have a real enemy that we should all be united against. We could all be united against. And you have people acting in ways that are essentially supportive of the virus. The way they are behaving spreads the disease. It's a level of stupidity and irresponsibility that should really scare us. But also the incoherence of the ideology should scare us as well. Government is bad, so vote Trump because he's an outsider. But government is now good, so we should all support Trump and everything he does, even if he is taking and exercising more power than we would have ever said the office of the presidency should have, because Trump is the best. But now government's bad because the governors are telling us to stay home. But wait a second, government's good because Trump is handing out trillions and trillions of dollars that in the past we would have said is a complete overreach for government to be involved in. It's incoherent. They're wrong, ignorant, dangerous, whatever word you want to apply to it. The effect is more people are going to die. There's a YouTube channel called Upflip that we're partnering with. I would love for you to check it out. I've put the link right underneath the video. Make sure to subscribe to the channel when you're there. Upflip is a channel that is all about exploring small business and what makes a small business successful. Every episode interviews an entrepreneur. You take a tour of the business, and these are not generic interviews. You actually get a really fascinating deep dive into the history of the business, the mistakes the entrepreneur made, what they learned, what motivates them, what a day is like running their business. And you get all sorts of super interesting and valuable insight about what it's like to run that type of small business. As a business owner myself, I find Upflip's videos to be endlessly intriguing. Even if you don't own your own business, it is really great for a general audience. It's stuff that I think just about anybody would find fascinating. And you can check it out by going to davidpakman.com/upflip. The link is right underneath this video. When you're there, make sure to subscribe and click the bell for notifications.